I'd like to share a little bit about the process that we go to acquire the materials that we build our guitars out of. I've spent a lot of time in the air traveling all over the world looking at everything from forests to forestry practice to the handling of materials, the selection and grading of materials. And I'm proud that Gibson's taken the responsible stand that it has at this time to ensure that all the wood that we bring to you is all certified. What we've done is we have, in partnership, just like we do with Wildwood Music, we work with the people that are going to represent what we need to do or how we're going to present our product to you. And if you reverse that process and we go all the way back to the chain of custody where that guitar wood was harvested, we want to bring that wood to market for Gibson Guitar and begin the drying or curing process as soon as possible after the wood is put through the mill process. So we have partnered, and through learning the ins and outs of the industry, we've come up with a system of having the wood graded and cut to our spec as thin and close to final dimension that we would like to use in our factory. At one time, Montana was so proprietary that literally we went out and bought logs on the ground and had them quartered or sent into us, and we resawed every stick of wood that we did. But what we found was the people that were doing that in our factory wanted to be guitar makers. They didn't want to be sawmill operators. They loved the opportunity to work on a guitar that they might see on television or someone in a home would have. So we've moved them out of the process of just being sawyers into being guitar makers. And we've transferred the responsibility of accurate sizing and dimensionalizing the lumber that we get to begin the drying and curing process, sometimes years before it is actually made into a guitar, and maybe years before we see it. So the wood is cut, sorted, selected, and harvested specifically for Gibson in a lot of cases. Once the guitar wood is made the trip from the forest to whatever, or through whatever avenue it needs to get to Montana, it is brought in and it's graded again. And we call the grading portion of that stickering. The wood is inspected as it comes in, and it's put into piles with thin plastic rods in between it, which allows it to continue to gas off the moisture that's within the wood. Now, in the case of something as dense as a bridge blank or a fretboard blank, those might land in Montana a year or two, or even more in some cases, prior to our plan to use them. So they'll live in Montana inside my building or inside Gibson's building for at least a year before they're processed. They'll go through a kiln if need be in our facility as well, and then they go on a shelf for up to a year or more. We want to ensure that our fretboards don't shrink, that our bridges don't check or crack. I mean, we want to take all the variable, we want the wood to relax. Wood has a lot of trouble forgetting that it was a tree. And one of the things that happens when you take all of these parts that came from different trees and you put them all together, string them up and tune them, there's a small amount of disconnect between them. The energy that's developed the first time this guitar is struck is putting energy into the wood that it never had before. All it did was rise up every morning, turn and try and greet the sun, and watch it go down every night. And it happens. Trees grow up in a spiral fashion, and that leaves tension in the wood. We need to relax the wood. We need to learn how to let it and what it takes time-wise to get that wood to be, we refer to it as annealed. So once the wood has reached that optimum working temperament, we very quickly join it together because we don't want it remembering that it was a tree again. We want it to begin to believe that now it is a musical instrument. And so that the wood moves through the factory incredibly quick, considering how delicate an instrument we're building. But we found the sooner we can tie up all the glue joints, the more it becomes kind of okay with being a guitar instead of a tree. In fact, we like to think that it looks forward to producing music. Our guitars use such a variety of woods, and all of them require a little bit different care and handling. The guitar that comes to us from the field that somebody's had and needs repair oftentimes is subjected to maybe uninformed abuse. We'll find that the guitar was either over dried out due to the way the climate in the region that the person lives has been used. The person doesn't realize that it's too dry or it's too wet. We just can't deliver a guitar to Portugal and have it stay together. They puff up like they're a party balloon, you know. There's so much current of air and moisture coming across the coast of Portugal that it's just incredibly difficult to keep a guitar in spec in that country. In the same vein, we have guitars that go to drier climates that people aren't maybe informed enough to know when they need to either humidify their environment, not necessarily just the guitar, but the environment, or when they don't need to. And there's ways that can be done rather than all the gadgets and devices that are available on the market to make your instrument comfortable in your home. We go to great lengths to bring the instrument materials down to somewhere in the 7 to 9% and then allow them to anneal to our factory environment. The fact that our factory is held at a very consistent moisture content, which is around 44% generally, maybe a little bit higher than the actual need of the guitar. In the past, I used to try and hold them at 38 to 40% and had good success with that. We're a little bit wetter. In Montana, it's dry outside, so we're constantly pouring water into the environment. We use misters rather than air conditioners like they use in Nashville to take moisture out of the air. We're actually dumping it back in to hold that equilibrium. So once you get the guitar and it's in your home, you know, how do you care for it? What's the best way to ensure the longevity of your guitar? And simply put, if you're comfortable, your guitar is going to be comfortable. And the greatest period of adjustment that your guitar has is probably the first 6 months that you own it. And certainly through the first winter. I mean, there's a change. Everybody's got the heat on in their house, probably dry heat. Everybody thinks that the summers are hot and it's going to, you know, cook my guitar and it'll be too dry. It's really not the case. It's winters that most of the damage occurs, when people have got their home heat turned up and they're not putting in adequate moisture. They'll notice that maybe in the winter they've got to put chapstick on. Then my lips are dry. If your lips are dry, your guitar is dry. And it's the speed that the wood gives up the moisture that causes the damage. I mean, heck, we take guitar wood and we put it into a tank of water to bend the sides. So it's not foreign to have moisture. There are two types of moisture in wood. One is bound and one is unbound. One that lives within the cell structure and one that is given up readily as the temperature and humidity change in a day. The guitar is basically raw wood. The whole interior of the guitar is open to the environment that you subject it to. The outside has, in our manufacturing practice, we use nitrocellulose, which is a deterrent to moisture or beer or blood or anything else that might get on it, your spit. It's protective and it gives an attractive finish to the guitar, but it doesn't make the guitar play better. It just makes it last longer. It's a protective finish. But what makes the wood work and what makes the guitar work is the natural surface of the wood and the interior of the guitar. So as that gives up, takes on moisture back and forth, and at the speed that it does it, that's where damage can occur in your instrument. By the time your guitar's lived in the environment where you live for, like I say, 6 months or through one winter, at that point you should pretty well understand the setup and the changes that are going to occur in your guitar. If we've done our job properly you probably need to have 2 saddles for your guitar. If you live in a climate that has a volatile change, you might need a summer and a winter saddle. Otherwise, your guitar should be safe and secure as you are in your own home. I think that you would agree that guitars that sound soggy because they're over humidified, they kind of puff up, aren't as clean as guitars that are crisp and dry. The one thing that Gibson can't do is we can't age the wood for you. That's your responsibility. Own it. In fact, what we would prefer is that you wear them out by playing.